Hi everyone. So today I wanted to share with you some furniture restoration repair. And what I've got going on is our cushions have been compressed, and I was able to firm them up a bit by adding polyfill and kind of getting them by for another year. Well, the local Joann Fabrics were supposed to send me some high density polyfoam, and the high density is high compression, and you have to order it to the size of your cushions. Well, it back ordered, so it's been over a year since I made my video of my couch restoration, and I got so much flack from people who weren't my regular viewers about the kids being disrespectful to the furniture, and what are they doing in the background, and it's dirty, get rid of it. And I welcome anybody to send me a new couch anytime. So if you want to have me review a couch or send me a couch for a gift, then I'll pass this on to somebody else. But in the meantime, it's our dollar being spent, and I'm going to spend every dollar wisely. So I will show you something that is a neat trick. This is a jute covered wire, and there's a little wire in there, and this is a little heavier gauge wire than the one that was originally on here. I also only had one wire. I'm reattaching a new one right here. It was split between every single spring because it had gotten so old. Now, we've had this sofa for a number of years, and if you are not new to our channel, then you kind of know what goes on around here. There's a lot of kids, and we try to save money every way we can. And this was actually a used sofa that was replacing my old sofa because this was cleanable at home. It was not chemical clean. I could spot clean it with water. I could hit it with the entire carpet cleaner and restore its freshness that way. So we have had little kids ranging right now from 13 to 2. So there has been leaky sippy cups and all kinds of stuff. But little kids tend to jump on furniture, and that's what I think originally happened with our wire that went across the bottom. Now, this is about a 72-inch long sofa, which is 6 feet. That's not a lot of extra support for your up and down coils, and these are a tension coil. They're very, very curved, and I actually just was straightening this one out. You can actually have these snapped in half, and on our chair that I have been reupholstering, I had one snapped in half, and you can get another one sent to you. I will put a link in the description below for some of the products that I've used for this, but the clips that hold this on are essential for keeping this in place, and that's going to help tie together all of your coils that are supporting your cushion that you're sitting on, keeping you from falling down into it. So it wasn't going to matter how much polyfill was in my cushions as long as this one wasn't even attached. It had popped out of its bracket, and this twine with the wire in holds them all together so that they work as one instead of each one independently. This particular coil right here, my oldest son Jack tends to plop his entire body down, and he's he's 5'11", and he's probably 180 pounds. And a big guy like that, we don't have drawstrings on our curtains behind me, so they were standing on the cushion also to open and close our curtains. So maybe not having the sofa here, that might be something I'm going to have to change. Maybe put the smaller sofa and chair over on this side of the living room. I don't know. So let me show you up close what we're doing. So don't mind our mess in the background. Of course, I had to tear apart the sofa, so a fort commenced very quickly. So this little connector holds the twine. Now you can open that up and you can reclose it with pliers, but I actually only had one strand across this entire couch, and I am adding a second one. If I'd have been thinking, I might have even done a third, but it's not really adding support, it's just tying the springs together. So I'm adding a whole second row, and it was cheaper for me to order a package of 50 than to get enough to go all the way across the sofa plus the chair that I'm doing. Also, it's a great time of year to be working on any furniture restoration. You see leaky sippy cups. I've got some cleaning to do here, but to start with, I had to tear off the bottom cover that enclosed this entire sofa. And you know, with kids, it's really not a bad idea to just leave it off. That way any crumbs fall through and I can move the sofa and clean it, because I spent at least a good an hour taking that off and vacuuming the entire sofa out. Now, if you look closely there, there's some white foam, and that's kind of like what's inside of a quilt or a blanket. And that was underneath my springs with just a thin layer of fabric over the top of that, so that when you take your cushions off, you don't see the springs. So probably I'm going to go ahead and recover that just so that these don't press down into the cushions too much. And my actual seat cushions have a spring section in them. So instead of just doing 6-inch panels of foam, we're going to go ahead and do 2-3 inches glued together the same way the originals were, so that we have that extra support. So it was a good quality couch. It's, you know, more than lasted its lifetime with us, but you know, it's worth doing a little bit of repair just to get a little more work out of it, because in February it is no time to be going out trying to find another sofa. And part of the trouble is we bought this love seat last year, and trying to find a match to that now is probably not going to happen. So better to just get by for a little while longer, maybe until the little guy's about 6. You know, if I get 2-3 more years out of it, that'd be great. But he's going to be 3 this year, and yeah, I don't need to see more of this on a brand new light colored sofa, because that's my next move. So I'll set you up here and you can see what I'm doing. So this is the actual piece that I'm tightening down. So I did buy a pack of 50 of these for the section that I'm adding, but you know, rather than rip it all off and waste it. Okay, you're too close. So I just wanted to show you up close what this looks like and what's going on. This is a special tool that I had for building cages, for like rabbit cages and poultry cages. I'm sure they probably have a special tool for these, but I thought, you know, a pair of regular pliers, I've asked the kids twice to get them for me. I just went ahead and grabbed these out of the shop because it's the right shape. Okay, so I've got my supportive wire all attached. I had to kind of recrimp one of my connections. I didn't really like that the original clamps were so much smaller, and I happen to think that the old wire I took off was plastic coated and it was a bit thinner gauge. So I did go ahead, I took off the ones that I started with that I was reusing, and I swapped them all out. There was probably a 1/4 of an inch different size in the length of the old ones and new ones. So now I am working on replacing my fabric and my batting that go between the cushion and the springs. Now my outer cushions sit on this fabric lining, and normally you have like a cream colored fabric that's real thin. It's generally called muslin, M-U-S-L-I-N. It's real cheap to buy by the yard. You can pick up sometimes discontinued fabrics that are very similar but have a heavier quality, so you might want to go that route. I got into my sewing stash and this is what I found. This is almost like a duck cloth, so it's much heavier duty. I think I bought this to make draperies a long time ago, and it is a tan color, so it'll go better with the couch than the cream colored muslin cloth. You can dye your muslin cloth. As far as I know, it only comes in white and off-white. So, you know, if you go that route, you might want to dye it to just kind of blend in better with the couch. You don't really see it, but, you know, why have white fabric underneath the cushions that's going to show every spill and stain? You know, my hope is to eventually send this couch off to a new life, and we're just going to give it a little new life while it's here. Now, most material that I work with is 54 inches wide, and you're not going to need that much for your width of your sofa. On my particular sofa, it tucked down to the ends of the springs and stapled into the framework and stapled into the front section of the sofa. I don't think there was any staples in the back. There were some random staples in the back, but it was mostly attached on the inside edges underneath the arms or the sides of the couches. So for my couch, I figured the way it rises over the springs, you've got to compensate for that rise and not just measure the length of the couch, because then you're going to fall short. So better to start off too long and trim off some excess. So I'm going to kind of shoot for about 84 inches. I figured that'll give me plenty of extra length. I knew 82 was, you know, kind of give or take. Add that couple extra inches, trim it back where you're not going to need it. You can't go making things longer, and you want to not have much waste. So from front to back, I want to have at least 36 inches, and again, compensating for that rise. So I figure better to be safe and go about 40 inches. Now I can trim this after it's all in place, and that will make it go much, much faster. And even if you wanted to, you could fold it under and have a finished edge instead of just a cut edge. And just to make sure what we've got here, my edges that come off the bolts, they're called selvage edges. And that is going to be 60 inches. So half wasn't going to be long enough, like half the width of the bolt. Now whenever I'm cutting fabric, I like to use fabric scissors. These are my Ginger, G-I-N-G-H-E-R. That's how my mom taught me how to say it. It's not ginger. And they're always really sharp, and they're put away so the kids cannot get a hold of them. If you have a rotary cutter, that's fine too, but none of these cut edges are going to show, so scissors are fine. Now a trick is, if you're trying to use things that you have on hand, you can always use an old sheet or an old curtain to put this material down for your lining for your sofa.
$148. I'll show you a trick if you've ever bought fabric at the fabric store. Pick it up, slide it all down, and if you do a lot of sewing or cutting, you can attach a yardstick right to your counter. And 48, which is 4 feet. And 4 is 7 feet. Double check that it rides to make sure. I've got, ooh, I can use my excess material for throw pillows. Thinking ahead. So if I cut that there, keeping in mind pillow form size. Make sure I leave myself enough, yeah. A good throw pillow size is 18 and 24 inches. Sometimes 16 can be really good for a bed pillow, but for a couch pillow, I prefer larger. So yeah. Okay. We're going to stick with the 84 so I can have a couple of throw pillows with my excess 24 inches. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing with the other fabric. I wanted to mention, if you are using fabric you've had in storage, or even fabric new, you may want to wash it ahead of time just to make sure there's no chemical smell to it or any like basement storage smell. Just a little thought. If you get farther than this and you've happened to have forgotten that, you can always sprinkle baking soda over it, let it sit for a while, and then vacuum it up. Now, because I'm using some batting, quilting batting that I already had on hand, I was wondering if the wear and tear might kind of rough this up a little too much. So I am considering doubling it up, and I have some spray adhesive. I could also stitch it together really quick on the sewing machine. So I'm going to kind of think that over a little bit, and I'm going to lay it out on the floor and see what I think.
Okay, so now it is getting into evening. See, we have the drapery closed. Baby is not behind the couch anymore. He's woke up from his nap and he is into trouble. And this is part of the reason for the repair in the first place. Hop off. Yes. I don't want you to hurt your feet. So this is called upholstery spring wire that I attached. This jute covered wire. And the clips are called 3-prong plier clips, and I ordered a box of 50 for $6. The sofa size was 72 inch, and I probably extended beyond the last spring yeah, 3 or 4 inches. So it's not short at all, and maybe they give you a little extra. I think I measured 68 inches from armrest to armrest, so there was plenty of that. They have different lengths of the spring wire that you can get. So when you attach these, make sure that you have them facing down just to not snag your new fabric that you're putting on. Like I said, I'm using that cotton batting. What I had taken off was a polyester batting, so I did decide to use the quilted batting, and for visual purposes, I didn't change my thread that was in my machine. See, I just stitched it across to help it stay. I thought I didn't really want to spray adhesive on it to bind them together and have that smell in the house. It's just better to not spray that with little guy around. So without this, each spring works on its own, and because this spring was totally independent of every other, and almost every other spring was tied to another, this one was wanting to twist a lot. So I did pinch my ends together a bit just to kind of shorten that length to make sure. And once I flipped the couch over, it's sitting as it should. Now, I think ideally that the sofa should have 3 of these. This is not giving you much cushion support. It's just keeping these tied together to work as a team. It's attached, of course, right here under a lip and on the back side. So it just seems like 3, this is where the original one was, and there was never any clips for a second. So I just went based off of that. So you can see now it's evenly spaced and much, much better. So I'm gonna prop this up, and you can watch me tuck this in and my material that's going to go over the top. So I know it looks lumpy right now, but I'm going to have to flip the couch over and tack this in place and kind of pull it and stretch it to where I want it. The best thing I can tell you, if you don't have just a hand stapler, you can pick those up for anywhere from $20 to $30 for a better end one. It's worth the money. You'll use it on all kinds of things. There's a line of pneumatic tools, and you can get an air stapler for a project like this, and it helps you get into the tight spots that you can't quite get to with the squeeze handle on a regular staple. So that might be a better route to go. So since I have a deck just outside of this window, I can run my air line from the compressor right through the window to be able to do this. So I think I'm going to save my stapling for tomorrow and just kind of get this straightened out. I will tell you, I did some tailing for our entire project. It took 28 3-prong clips to attach our spring wire, and the spring wire was $5.98 for the 2 pieces. So for $9.34, they averaged out to 12 cents a piece because I ordered 50. For $9.34, my couch cushions are not going to sag down so much. Now they also have foam through Home Depot, and that's the cheapest that you're going to find any foam. However, it does not say on the website that it's high density. I did a little bit of research, and I did find later on in another description that it does say it's high density. So I was a little iffy about that, but $25 for a 3-inch layer. And I think they had up to a 4-inch layer. Now my actual cushions themselves, the covers slip right off, and mine have a cotton muslin cover over the entire cushion. And then when you pull this off, I have a 2-inch foam, an actual spring form in the center, and another 2-inch foam. I had decided that I might not use those springs anymore just because of compression, and I want as much density to it as I can. Look in your description when you're ordering your foam, or if you go to a craft store, that it is upholstery foam made for cushions and setting on, because different foams are made for different projects. The thicker you go, the higher density it's going to be also. So take that into consideration when you're buying it. I decided I'm going to go with 2 layers of 3-inch foam. And you can always stiffen it up in between a little bit with just a small layer of springs. I actually have compression springs that are 4-inch in this that are just covered with a real light material. I'll get further into that when that foam arrives and show you that part of this restoration. So $9.34 for what I've done so far, because I had my fabrics on hand. You know, that would be 2 yards for the measurement of muslin and this poly batting, if you had to add that also. So that might add another $10 to $20 on it. And then the foam for the 3-inch ended up being $25 a sheet. And since I was ordering 2 sheets, $50 for my cushions was not bad, because the green foam that is Joann Fabrics, the thickest I could get was 5-inch. They had a slab of 72-inch if you got a 5-inch thick foam, but because we wanted 6-inch thick foam, I was going to have to double up the 3 inches. I was going to end up having to order 4 yards of that, and they're not always coming, and a lot of reviews complained about it being split, so then you end up with a cushion that's split, and a lot of people aren't handy with the spray adhesive glue, and different adhesive glues also can break down the foam, so you have to be very careful about which you choose to use for it and make sure that it's for use with foam. It was going to end up costing me $132 through Joann just for the foam, and we ended up going the Home Depot route for $50. So I think that's pretty good savings, and if I notice that it's not going to be as long-lived, it's fine, as long as it gets us by through. I don't want to be bringing home a couch with a truckload full of snow in it, and, you know, like I said, just kind of upcycle and recycle and get a little longer life out of this. So you can see I've gone up here. When I tucked it in, it wasn't getting, the edge of the front of the couch is right here. So I straightened that all up well beyond, and I realized that the old foam polyester batting that was on here only went from that edge to the back edge and stopped right about here. So I might pull this back out and trim it back some for the width. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough. It was originally only stapled here along the edge and right down here along the edge. So we'll just take that and we'll be able to tack that right down. Okay, so let me show you what we're dealing with our cushions. I've laid the foam out and let it flatten for about an hour. My spray adhesive had actually been left out in the garage, and it has to be used between 65 and like 75 or 80 degrees. So I needed to wait to get that warmed up. It's probably not going to be ready tonight just because it's 30 degrees this morning, dropping down to 17 in the afternoon, and we're losing daylight now. So it is getting to be dinner time soon enough. So I let this foam lay out, let the kids tumble and play on it, and I'm deciding to go ahead. I want to clean all of my cushions and my inner lining. We do have kids in the house. If you've seen the first part of this video that we did before, everything's sippy cup, little kids sleeping. They have an inner liner inside of my upholstery fabric. So I'm going to, these are washable. I'm going to go ahead and wash them with my inner liners just to get any built up smells and spills out of it. So this is my actual cushion, and my cushion is covered with a polyester batting, and there's a real light fabric over the top, and I have seen it before when I bought a Target bed skirt, and I don't even know what it's actually called, but it's almost like interfacing. It's really, really thin. It's real similar to the fabric that was on the bottom of the sofa, so you could probably use just about anything you have on hand. This is the inside of my cushion. I have got a 2-inch foam here, and then they cut 2-inch foam and went all around the edges, and I actually have a spring in the center. So you can see some discoloration. These springs have wore out. We are not going to reuse any part of this cushion at all because we're going to start all over fresh, and my 3-inch cushions are going to make up all the difference in height for all of the foam here. This foam is totally not reusable at all. We're going to dispose of all of this, and taking this apart is going to show you what to do as far as re-wrapping. There are some really good channels on just furniture upholstery by professionals. This is me as a homeowner and a mom trying to thrift our life some more. And actually looking at this, it looks like it is 2 layers. Yeah. That's the best thing I can tell you is to study or tear apart the construction to see what you're looking at. So I'm looking here at what they did from the factory when this sofa was made. And the spray adhesive can help you so much in holding everything together, because without it, you're going to have a heck of a time. Now, I held off on doing this until I knew I had all of my supplies on hand. And the reason for that is, like Joann's, if you order the foam, you can get this in multiple pieces and really run into a mess. We have a lot of people in our house, and we need to have our couch, our sofa put together and available for the kids to use. They can sit on this while I wash the cushions, and that is fine. I can leave the rest of them hanging together. So these are the filler pieces that were in the center. So here's one layer here, and I can see that they notched it out at the corners to give it a rounded shape instead of a boxy shape. So that's good to know ahead of time, just so that it all fits into the shape of the cushion a little bit, because otherwise you could end up having a square box at the back and not having rounded corners. So, one layer of the interfacing, one layer of batting. This is a thinner layer of batting and a layer of interfacing glued to the 2-inch foam. And I take that out. This is all the construction that they put together for the springs. So then another 2-inch foam. We're going with 3 inches and 3 inches glued together to be all of 6. So we're not going to need any of that. And this probably totals another inch layer. It's really hard to get anything thicker than that, and I don't think we'd be really comfortable having another layer of foam over the top. The density or the compression also of this, besides just the weight, is going to make a difference in your comfort on the couch. These cushions are so shot, anything is going to make a difference. We're just trying to make it last a little longer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strip these all apart, and then we're going to get all of them in the washer. And then we'll get back to this as soon as my glue is warmed up. Well, everybody, I finally got my sofa finished. We had ran out of spray adhesive and had to wait 2 days to be able to get back to the store because we had a heck of an ice and snowstorm. So it's finally done. I'm so glad we did it. At the very least, we'll have this couch for 6 months to a year, and it'll still have life left in it for somebody else. If you did notice at the very last, when I was putting the cushions all on, I had measured them all at about 25 inches, not taking into any extra consideration for my batting going around the sides for the rounded edges at all. So you might want to take an extra inch off for that. My last and final cushion was about a half an inch. Look at the baby. Look at the baby. My last and final cushion was at least a half an inch smaller than the first 2 cushions that I cut. Just trying to get that exact measurement was so hard to do. So I had hoped that the rotary cutter would have gone through the foam easier. It did not want to go through at all, and I tell you the best thing that I found, I have a honey uncapping knife that is serrated. Went pretty well through it, but the serration was too fine, so I used my bread knife and it went through perfectly. I did decide that I was going to round the corners of my foam cushions just a little bit, so I did end up taking a cereal bowl upside down and trace that pattern on the edge of the foam cushion just to give me that slightly rounded edge that I was looking for. And I did learn that as I was covering them with the batting to kind of fill in that area with my folds. On my final cushion, when I was folding the final layer of batting over, I let it go all the way to the side instead of half and half, just to kind of make up for any size difference that I had. And I still had plenty of room in the pre-cover, but in the final zipping cover, you can see they're really hard to get back on. So you don't want to make a mistake by cutting them too small. You can always go back later on and take a layer off or whatever if you have to. Do a test fit, anything like that before you cover it with the fiber fill and the polyfill on the final coating. All of our back cushions, you can get polyfill and just like stuffed animal fill, and they have foam chunks or just the loose polyester that you could put into the back. Some couches are even down filled with goose feathers, and if I ever come across something really good quality like that, I know I'm up for the challenge for doing any restuffing and reupholstery of it, because things like that are a great find and well worth the restoration. This couch was worth the restoration process for me because in total, like I said, it was $9 for all of my hardware that I had to put into it. We spent $50 on the foam. The big roll of polyester fill, we used a 50% off coupon at Joann's, and that was roughly $10. And all of my polyfill that I was able to pick up for my back cushions, I was actually at a St. Vincent de Paul thrift store, and quite regularly they get in craft supplies, and I got a huge bag for $1, and I was able to fill all the back cushions for $1. So for roughly $65, I was able to rebuild the couch, have a lot of life left in it, because you can't pick up a used couch in our area for less than $150 for a small, like Ashley Furniture lightweight couch. This was a used couch to begin with from a very clean home that had a cat, and I was surprised at how much cat little bits of fur that I was finding in the entire sofa as I was tearing it apart to take the bottom fill off of it. Still way less gross than anything that my kids had done to this sofa. So I'm glad to save it, glad to restore it. George is happy with it. My husband even sat on the couch, laid on the couch, and watched hours of TV last night, which he never does. We usually end up hiding in our bedroom and leaving the living room to the kids. So what they do to the furniture, it's cheap use furniture. We'll get the better stuff as they get a little bit older. We're out of the sippy cup stage, but as you just saw, we have a little guy. He's going to be 3 this year. He's bypassing the sippy cup stage, and today he was walking around with a cup of hot cocoa. So maybe the carpet will be one of my next projects. Choo-choos? Choo-choos? So he's happy that he's got his train table back in its normal place. He's got his tractors to play with, all the floor space, all my supplies are cleaned up and put away, and you can see I have been wrestling couch cushions, so I am ready for a rest for the day. It's time for little baby to take a nap. We'll see you all next time. Remember, if you're not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button for us. Bye-bye.
Bye.